Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Travis and I am surviving an avoidant discard. So if you're new to the channel, welcome. And if you are returning, welcome back. Thank you for coming back. So the avoidant parent discard left me homeless. So as I've moved through this healing journey, I'm a healing fearful avoidant. I've had to look back at my relationship history, my patterns of attachment, why do I keep ending up with dismissive avoidant partners or worse, other fearful avoidant partners? Where does this come from? Where does my attachment style come from? What triggers my attachment wounds? As a excuse me, as a healing fearful avoidant, I have a abandonment wound and I have a betrayal wound. So when I'm in my anxious side, that's when my abandonment wound gets triggered. When Sarah was pulling away and distancing and putting up walls, that was triggering my anxious side, to move closer towards her because I'm afraid of being abandoned. When I'm in my avoidance side, which doesn't come out very often, but that's definitely my betrayal wound. So if I feel like I'm going to be betrayed or I'm about to be betrayed, and now that I think of it live sitting here, there was probably a little bit of that after the breakup with Sarah, and I'm going to cover that in future videos. And I know I keep saying that it's you'll understand when you see it. It's hard to share, and it's even harder to film because it's just hard to share. But there's definitely some of that betrayal in there. So if I feel like I'm going to be betrayed, or I feel like I have been betrayed, then I can quickly shift into avoidance side and pull away myself. But where does this come from? And as I started to learn more and more about this stuff, I realized that my first real abandonment and my first real betrayals came from my parents. And this isn't about blame shifting or blaming your parents for all your troubles and whatnot. They had their own issues that they were going through. They were going through a divorce. When I was 17, I came home and Dad didn't live there anymore. There was no fight, there was no warning. It was just, that part of your life is over. There's no father at your house anymore. And he didn't disappear. There was visitation and whatnot. But further along that year, we lost my grandmother, his mother, and then shortly after that, my grandfather. And the following year, I was turning 18 and graduating high school. And as soon as I graduated, my mother sat myself and my twin brother down and basically said, you have to get out of the house. You have to leave. I don't remember the conversation. You would think it would be such a formative, that, I would remember details of that conversation. You know what it's like is, if you've watched Breaking Bad, remember when Walt gets his cancer diagnosis? And there's that ringing sound and you can't hear what the doctor's saying and Walt's focused on the mustard stain on the doctor's jacket. That's kind of what that was like. I couldn't tell you what my mother said, what her face looked like. I couldn't tell you which side of me my brother was sitting on, none of it. And I think I was going into survival mode in my brain. Like, what am I going to do? I don't have anywhere to go. Where am I going to live? And there's no internet, there's no cell phones, there's no YouTube. I would argue 18-year-olds today are as immature as I was at 18. They just have access to more information. So all I knew was, I'm going to go buy a tent. That's what I'm going to have to do. I'm going to have to buy a tent and live in a tent. How am I going to get it to work? I was working at McDonald's. It was my first job, like part-time job. Now it's going to have to be full-time. How am I going to get it to work? I'll buy a bike. And that was it. So now I'm homeless, living in a campground. I've lost, I lost my father, my grandmother, my grandfather, now my mother. and my two younger brothers, and my twin brother. I don't know where he went. And my home, my room, everything that I own. You know, when you're a kid, I don't care what anybody says, 18 is a kid. When you're a kid, that's your entire world. So you've literally lost your entire world. And so definitely both abandonment and betrayal wounds were activated then. And that's how I started adult life. And I don't have any vast amount of memories either about living in that campground. I think I was there for 2 or 3 months. I couldn't tell you a single meal that I ate there. I vaguely remember what my tent looked like in this campground and the washroom facility, showers and whatnot, and a memory of riding my bike down the highway from the restaurant back to the campground. But that's it. The rest of it's just gone. So I think, yeah, my brain was definitely in survival mode. I don't know that it ever really came out of survival mode, particularly when I'm in relationships. And this is what got triggered every single time in these relationships, that, you know, I'm going to be abandoned. But part of it was like, oh my God, I'm going to end up back in a campground. I actually had a partner once tell me, you know, you're going to die alone. You're going to be alone forever. And that, of course, really struck a nerve and cut pretty deep, because subconsciously, you know, that's exactly what I'm believing. Thankfully, things are better now, especially with hypnotherapy, which I've mentioned before on this channel. I will end on a little bit of more of a positive note. I've gotten to a point in my therapy. I see my therapist probably every 3 weeks to a month, something like that. I've gotten to a point where, so I watched this, I was telling my therapist this, I watched this movie and I was just bawling by the end of it. It's called Arrival. It's about aliens coming to Earth, and the main character is able to have these flash forwards where she can see into her future. And she sees that something horrific is going to happen with a loved one. And in the present, she has the ability to avoid that. And she doesn't avoid it. She still goes through with it. And I've gotten to the point where, with Sarah, where the thought of her never having been in my life, that's what I thought of when I watched this movie, when I was crying sorry. I wouldn't know about myself to the level that I do without her. It makes me love her more. It makes me miss her more. It still hurts, but at least there's gratitude for the gift that it is. I think those of us that go through a discard like this, the lucky ones, recognize what an opportunity and what a gift this is to learn about ourselves. And there's a sign beside me here. I don't know if you can see it. I've had this for years. It just says, it's never too late to get your shit together. And it's true. And it's frustrating, and it's very saddening when I think of Sarah and the story that I just told you about my loss. She knows about that. I don't know anything about her journey, her because I don't think that she knows anything about it. And that fills me with so much sadness for her, and the part of me that wants to protect her and never see her hurt wishes that I could go back in time and take away whatever happened to her. Anyway, I I said that was going to be a positive end to the video, and it ended up being the most depressing part of the video. I know I've been away for a couple of weeks, couple months. I really just stepped away from, sorry. I really just stepped away from everything and just tried to concentrate on myself. And I didn't want to do any more learning about dismissive avoidance. And you quickly get to the end of your capacity of dealing with learning about that. You can't. It doesn't get you anywhere. Okay, great. I know this about them, but the point is, do they know this about them? And you can't. You can't force them. So I will tack on a little video here at the end of at least one fun event. For about a week, I had 3 very cute new roommates that I was fostering for a week, so I'll end off on that. I hope you guys are all doing well and taking care of yourself, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks. And we have 3 new little roommates for a week. I think you're going to be the troublemaker. You keep jumping up here like you want to escape. Holy feeding frenzy. You just ate an hour ago. Excuse me.